So somebody say the gift of bushels. Why do I call them bushels? Not for any reason. The only reason is simply because Jesus said, you don't light a candle and put it under a bushel. So I call it the gift of bushels because there are two things you can do with a bushel. It's either you bury your gift under it or you illuminate your gift on top of it. That's what bushels do. So ask your neighbor, where is your bushel? What was her answer? Where is your bushel? I'll tell you the truth. There are lots of you who are very talented, very skilled. I was watching the man who was playing the sax. I was blown, enjoying what he was doing. And in my mind, I was just telling myself how far this man can travel with a bushel. That's all you need. With a bushel. There are some of you who are already lighted up. You have discovered your gifts. You have discovered your uniqueness. You understand your magic. But for some reason, you don't have the exposure and the illumination to give you the contact you need with the investors you need in your dream. Am I speaking to somebody in this house? Now, all you need, the bridge between where you are today and the investors you seek, the employers you need, is what Jesus called a bushel. I'll tell you a little bit about that bushel. And if I run out of time, I'll stop on that note, okay? But I don't want to leave it because a lot of you need that opportunity. 6,000 years before Christ, a couple known as Amram and Jochebed, two very ordinary Hebrews living in Egypt, found themselves in very precarious circumstances because there was a decree that was given that anyone who gives birth to a male child should deliver the child to be slaughtered. And the Pharaoh was a very cruel Pharaoh who did not joke about his decrees. So these Hebrew women will give birth to children and they look at the sex, and if it's a boy, they donated it to be killed. You know how people love male children in some parts of the world. So you can imagine how it is for a generation of people to rise up who will pray when they get pregnant, let it be a girl, let it be a girl, let it be a girl. Because to give birth to a boy is to commit him to the slaughterhouse. So it was in that time that they gave birth to a child who turned out to be a boy. Now the mother looked at this boy and fell in love with him. He didn't know how to announce that I've given birth to a boy and it was time for him to be killed. So she hid the boy against the decree of the emperor of the universe. You know, Pharaoh of Egypt was the Donald Trump of the world at the time, because Egypt was the world's only civilization at the time and a world power. So it was the decree of the emperor of the universe. And this woman said, I will not kill my son. So she hid him. But unfortunately for her, Moses was a very, very troublesome child. So 3 months as an infant, he had become so noisy. He would cry and cry and cry. So it became obvious that she could no longer hide this child. And she knew that if this child was discovered, the child would not only die, but she herself would go to the slaughterhouse. But she said, I will not let this boy die. So she thought about what to do. She went to God and asked God, what do I do? The child is too special to die. And God told her, put him on a bushel. And she said, how? What is this bushel all about? Now, the Nile River is the longest river in the world. It traverses 11 African countries, from Egypt to Burundi. It was the most celebrated river at the time because that was where principalities and royalties came to take their bath. You know, back in those medieval times, rivers like that were places where people displayed their pomp and pageantry. Only royalty. Poor people bath in streams. The wealthy and the aristocrats took their bath in those rivers. Remember the deputy commander or the commander-in-chief of the army of Syria, Naaman, when he had come to be healed of leprosy and Elisha had asked him to go take his bath in Jordan. His response was, how can I take my bath in such a demeaning river and not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, more in sync with my social status? Remember he said that. So that was where royalty, thank you, that was where royalty took their bath. So God gave that woman a vision. He said, take your child, put her on the Nile, put him on the Nile, and let the Nile take him into the hands of royalty. And the woman said, but the Nile is where all the sharks are. That is where that the Nile River, it can take the child into another nation altogether. And God gave that woman a revelation that was very uncommon. He told her to tever the basket. Somebody say tever. Now tever is a Hebrew word that was used only 2 times in the scriptures. The first time it was used was when Noah built an ark. Because the word ark, there are 2 arks we know of in the Bible, the Ark of the Covenant and Noah's Ark. Am I correct? Those 2 arks have two Hebrew meanings or 2 Hebrew words that represent them. Now, but the Hebrew word that represents the ark that Noah built is a word called tever. The only other time it was used in the Bible outside Noah was in describing the basket that woman built for Moses. That basket was called tever. So that ark, that basket was actually an ark of refuge. So what God was simply telling her is, you're about to donate your child to a borderless nation. Make sure you zip him around with value systems that will protect him and preserve him where he's going. He's going to be exposed to customs that are hostile to the values you know. So make sure you tever him. And that's what she did. So she put that tever is like a coal tar that is put around the basket. So the tever preserved this child until he was discovered by royalty. Now, can you imagine that? At the end of the day, we hear that the same Pharaoh who had decreed that this child should die was the same Pharaoh who invested in the training of this child until he came out of the university. Because a woman discovered the secret of bushels. So the Nile is like what you call today the World Wide Web. The problem I have with a lot of believers is they don't do the tevering work on their lives. So when they go to the social media platforms, they get lost. That social media is not a place where you go to import. It's where you go to export your craft. You only step in there to sell to the worldwide market the gifts that you're looking for investors. If you spend 1 second beyond that, the things that Nile will give you will change your life forever. So guys go in there, and before they know it, they step into pornography, begin to watch naked women and do all kinds of stuff because you go beyond your brief. See that marketplace as your Nile. But make sure that before you step into that marketplace, you have done your proper work. So that's the second thing, your bushel. And if you look through the whole of the scriptures, you find men and women who understood how to deploy their bushels in order to unwield their giftings. I can never forget a man like, the lame man called Beautiful. Remember, there were 2 lame men that their stories came out almost simultaneous in the scriptures. The first of them was the lame man that Jesus met at a pool called Bethsaida, remember? And when Jesus met that man, was he a lame man? Was he blind? Hello? Was he a lame man? Or was he blind? You don't know? Okay. But this particular lame man, anyway, so he was lame. But he said, being lame will not make me die poor. It's bad enough that I was born lame, but bad enough that I should die poor. So he called two gentlemen who had legs and said, let's get into a business partnership. And I said, what business do we do? He said, I have the gift of the gab. I can beg. When I beg, I receive. My only problem is I don't have less to take me to people who can give me the kind of money I need. In this neighborhood where we live, it's no use begging because you only get peanuts. But if you guys can provide legs for me and take me to where, then any money I collect 50% as the dominant shareholder. You guys share the rest. So the guy who had no leg employed the guys who had legs. And every day, these young men would take their bath, come to his house, carry him on their shoulders. And he told them, and they asked him, where do you want us to take you to? He said, there are many gates. First of all, he told them, the rendezvous of traffic in Israel was the temple. 3 o'clock every afternoon, everybody will go down to the temple to pray. So he said to them, that is where I want to go. But listen, there are many entrance gates into the temple. But the one I'm interested in is where the rich and the powerful access the temple through. It is called the Beautiful Gate. And they said, okay, so we take you there. And every day they'll come and carry this guy and put him in the Beautiful Gate. Take him to the Beautiful Gate. And the guy will sit down there and beg and make money. He was making so much money that even when the apostles showed up, the guys who had to save him from his lameness, he wasn't interested in getting his legs back anymore, because that will fold his business. The Bible said he looked at them preparing to deliver his speech. Then they disappointed him and said, listen, you're asking for, we don't have any of it. But we're here on a different mission because God has noticed you know how to use bushels. Are you following what I'm saying today? Where is your bushel, sir? What is your bushel? And it can be anything. It doesn't have to be social media. It could be anything. I gave you a lot of instances. For Zacchaeus, it was a sycamore tree. For Jesus, it was a cult. First 3 years in his life, he focused on the peasants and the poor. But when the time for him to die approached, he knew it was time to go to Jerusalem. And Jerusalem was not a place where you go on Legady's Benz. Nobody will open the gates for you. You don't come to the gate and announce I'm the Messiah and the flight doors open for you. So he needed a bushel, something to advertise his gift. He did not need it when he was preaching in the Sea of Galilee. People would donate their boats. He would walk around the sands of seashore, and everybody, 5,000 people will follow him. Not inside Jerusalem. These guys were the rich, the powerful, the government people. So he told his disciples, the game has changed. This anointing needs an enablement. He told them, go into the next city. There's a brand new car. Mark the words, brand new, not Tokumbo. Nobody has ever driven it. He said, where we are going to next, even Tokumbo cars are not accepted. So go into that city. When you find a brand new car, tell the owner that his owner has need of it. And that after using it, he will send it back. So they brought this brand new car to Jesus. It wasn't enough. He told them, gentlemen, look, the days of humility are over. Even this car is not enough to give us entrance. I need crowd. I need go over. Get all the people. All these blind eyes have opened. All the lame. Assemble them. Tell them they need to escort me to Jerusalem. Because the glory of the king is their population. So he amassed the crowd. And these guys lined up before him, pulled their clothes, put on the floor. And then he engaged his car. Brand new car. People were singing, Hosanna in the highest. Blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord. And Jerusalem opened. The Pharisees, the Sadducees, teachers of the law, the scribes, everybody. The Roman generals, the centurions. People were peeping out through their windows. And the question was, who is this? The amazement was so much that this man stepped into the temple, drove everybody out, and nobody could lift a finger because they were still stunned. They didn't know where he was coming from, whose authority he was using. But the crowd was a statement. The brand new car parked outside was a statement. And they said, let's just leave him alone. We don't know whether it is Pilate that sent him. He had to employ a bushel. That's your gift. That's your talent. Needs the services of a bushel. Time will not permit me to move on. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful morning.
Another round of applause for Dr. Cheerful. We've had two wonderful sessions this morning, and very shortly we'll be going into the panel sessions. The panel session where you would have the privilege of asking questions. So if you have your questions, just get them ready. You'll be given the privilege of asking the questions. We need additional microphones for the facilitators. I'll just give you an opportunity to share something with just one person beside you while we wait for the arrangement for the panel session. Just go ahead and one person shares something very striking from the first speaker, and then the next person shares something striking from the second speaker. Sharing is one of the ways we digest information. I didn't say in groups, just two of you, just two people. Just talk to the person beside you. If you're not talking to someone, that's a problem. If you're sitting beside someone and you're not talking, that's a problem. The world needs to hear you. The world needs to see you. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate the person who has shared knowledge with you. Just clap for that person. I'm sure you have received further light on something you heard earlier on today. Right now, we'll be going into the panel session. And as I call the names of our panelists, I would want you to welcome them with applause each as they go up there. In no particular order, let's make welcome a brand and advert expert who has impacted the Nigerian landscape in no small measure, Mr. Ozone Mbanefo. A life coach, author, pastor, mentor, and financial expert, Dr. Chefo Ejiofobi. An organizational performance expert, author, entrepreneur, and career guide, Dr. Ifeanyi Oyemere. Lastly but not the least, a financial expert, renowned economist, investment banker, and serial entrepreneur of great repute, Dr. Nnemeka Owerri. Like I said, please get your questions ready. Thank you very much, sirs. It's been an impactful weekend. In a minute each, I would like you to speak on the impact of what we're doing here this weekend in the lives of these youth and what it can translate to in our nation at large. Let's start from Ozone.
Good day, everyone. Okay, first of all, I would say what is happening here is information that causes transformation. Because after today, everything you have grabbed here today on implementation, because there's usually two kinds of people who listen, get inspired, and expire, and people who listen and put it to action. And so, if you apply what is happening here today and what you grab from this session today, you will go out there and implement them. And of course, it is action that determines result. And moreover, you cannot operate beyond what you know. So the information you're getting here will cause transformation in your lives and ultimately bring about national development, because you are the future. Thank you.
Dr. Nnemeka.
At a time like this, the opportunity is very great for you, the youths. This is not a talk shop. This is not a talk show. It's a summit that is intended to impact you, so that you'll be energized to go out there in the world to implant the glory of God for the world to see. Look back and ask yourself, who do I want to be in the next 1 year? We have told you here that at a time like this, champions are made. You have come to be equipped to go out there and unleash your potentials. Out of the 9,000 entrepreneur youth millionaires, say to yourself, look at yourself and say to yourself, by the time I come back here for the next summit, I will share testimony. I am one of them.
Dr. Chief.
The commonest street, the name of the commonest street in the United States of America is 2nd Street. It's the most common name named after streets in the U.S., 2nd Street. And to be second is actually to be common. The only two types of people in this world, the first and the rest. You're either amongst the first or you are part of the rest. And God called you to be the first and not the rest. If you notice, in the Guinness Book of Records, nobody has ever entered the Guinness Book of Records by coming second. It's reserved for only the first and the best. CNN debuted and took over the media world by announcing, "Be the first to know." I believe that this event was put together to take you from a life of average, a life of mediocrity, and put in you a desire and a thirst to see yourself amongst those who can become first in this life. And I believe that will be the outcome of this event, and it will happen. Amen.
Dr. Ifeanyi.
Like I said yesterday, this is more like a mentoring session. This whole weekend is like a mentoring session. And mentoring is all about the intersection between experience and expectation. You have an expectation, that's why you're here. You have an expectation in life, that's why you're here. Now you're meeting with people who have got experience. And so that interaction is supposed to help you get to your destination. And I say it again. If you know where you're going in life, your journey is short. If you know how to get there, your journey is shorter. If you know somebody who has been there, your journey is shortest. If the person who has been there decides to take you there, you are already there. And so what we are doing in these few days is to take you to your destination. And you know what? There's no way we can develop this country without developing the human capacity. The development of this country is not in the roads we are building. It's not in the institutions we are building. But it is in the building of the human capacity that can take this country to where it is supposed to be. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Just get your questions ready. I'll ask them one more question each, and then the floor will be open for questions from the audience. Starting from you, Dr. Ifeanyi, how true is the statement that youth are the real hope for the future?
The youth have got the energy, they have got the time, they have got the strength, they are able to learn, they are the assets. If you put all of this together, that's actually the future of the country. Because At some point in the age demographics, those of them that are 40, 45, 50, they don't have the energy anymore. There's a limit to what they can do. Most of them have learned enough that they don't even think they have a need to learn again. But the youths are open to learn. The youths can be corrected. And the youths have the energy. So when we put all these things together, we're able to give them what will help them to change the country, because they are in that prime of the age where they can still learn and where they can still move and where they still have a lot of novel ideas, where they can experiment. So they have the opportunity to experiment new things. But the old people believe they have had enough, they have got enough knowledge, they have seen it all. But the youth are hungry for more. And that is why we should invest more in them, because they have the energy and the drive and the hunger for knowledge.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Chefo, if with the explanations he has made, what is expected of the average youth in Nigeria with a large population, with a large youth population, what should the youth on their own begin to do immediately, finding themselves in an environment like Nigeria? What can they do on their own to add value to themselves, to realize all of these potentials that lie inherent in them?
Okay, I think that's what they've already begun to do. Well, those who took our time to come into this conference today, I mean, I can't imagine them. I don't know the number of youths we have, or the population of young people we have in Imo State or the Southeast, but you can see that those of you who made it, a lot of young people who do not place any value or premium on what is going on here. But they chose to be here because deep calls unto deep. Something in your heart tells you that there is something I need to know that I do not know that can help me make the transformative impact I need to make as a young people. So first is to congratulate you for taking out the time to come in here today and leave all the things you had to leave aside in order to come here. So the instant reward you are going to get is that there will be an exodus of knowledge from the myriads of mentors who are gathered here to you, and that will be the equipment you need in order to thrive tomorrow. So tomorrow, your colleagues and your peers are going to see you, and they'll be wondering, it's not the same friend we used to have. Why is he able to deliver the kind of results that he's delivering today? It's because you've paid the price to expose yourself to mentoring influence. One day with a mentor is like 1 year in a Nigerian university. So congratulations.
Thank you, sir. I think that statement deserves to be applauded. A day with a mentor is like a year in a Nigerian university. Dr. Nemeka, you made it clear that money is not the first thing people need to become entrepreneurs. And then the Holy Book tells us not to despise the days of little beginnings. We would like to know what kept you going, even in the face of having little or nothing, when you began life, when you began to pursue your goals. What are those things that kept you going and aiming until the big breakthrough actually came?
Thank you very much. I had this conviction, even as a 14-year-old boy, that I will never die a poor boy. From a very wretched home, I said to myself, the first thing I must do is to go to school. Knowledge makes a man. From the scriptures, you will see that money is not what you need. Jacob was over 60 years old. Go and check, he was over 60 years old. Go and read your Bible, study your Bible. Jacob was more than 60 years old when he left his father's house with nothing. 20-something years after, he came back laden with wealth because he learnt and acquired knowledge. Abraham was 75 years old when he left the house of Terah, his father, to a city only known by God as per the address. 20 years after, he built up an army in his house, an army strong enough to defeat 4 kingdoms. Even after defeating those 4 kingdoms, he did not take a pin from them because he said, I don't want any man to say they made Abraham of God rich. All you need is knowledge. Even at the age of 47, having gotten to the highest level of education, I still study 3 hours every day. 3 hours every day. Seeth that a man who is diligent in what he does, he will stand before kings. I tell you this, when I started life in Lagos, I was being paid 25,000 a month. In fact, I was the best in the whole faculty by miles. I graduated 4.38 out of 5. The next person was 3.9. But do you know that when I got to Lagos, while I was doing that 25,000 naira job, even those that were less endowed, who graduated the same year with me, we are working in deposit money banks. I met one of them. He said, in America, how much do they pay you there? I said 25,000. And I asked him, how much do they pay? He said 120. I started laughing. I said, don't worry, I'm coming. 10 years after, he was a banking officer when I became a full manager in the banking industry. Jumping steps. Because I took out time to learn under the masters. Just like what he pointed out. All we are giving you is a compass. You will navigate your way. And the only way you will navigate your way is to acquire knowledge. Seek knowledge. Bible says, in all you are getting, get wisdom. Wisdom cometh by understanding. Understanding giveth you knowledge. Right application of knowledge is wisdom. And a man of wisdom is stronger than 1,000 army encamped in a city.
Wow. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Mr. Ozone, how important is the subject of personal branding for today's youth? Today, our youth are being called different names, known all over the world for different things. How important is it for a youth to take responsibility for his personal brand?
I said it yesterday, and it's something that we must take very seriously. I call it intentional living. Intentional living is a calculated effort to position yourself, because whenever opportunity meets preparation, the next thing that follows is success. And if you do not position yourself, it's like you're going somewhere and you come to a bus stop. The bus comes, if you're at the bus stop, what will happen? The bus will pick you. And so if you position yourself right, when the opportunity comes, it takes you to your destination. And one of the ways to position yourself is that concept of content and container. Your content and container is simply your look and feel, your packaging, and what you have inside of you. Because the truth is that if what is coming out of you is not congruent with what you look like, the next thing is an accident waiting to happen. I met a lady who worked with us in an agency, an advertising agency I worked with some years back. And this lady walked in looking very beautiful and everything. And we respected her. She doesn't talk to anybody. And we didn't think that there was something wrong because she wasn't talking to anyone. And one day, everybody was wondering, what is it? They were trying to really, size her up. And one day, she got angry and she talked at the place we call the happy hour. Someone ate her food. And she entered and saw that someone has taken her food. And she opened her mouth to talk. And this was just her first week with the agency. And you know what she said? Who ate my food? And immediately, her self-worth was reduced to nothing. In fact, the people that had her was like, wow, that's it. Because they were looking to understand whether her looks is in sync with what is on the inside. And a week after, she had to resign. Why? Because there was mockery everywhere. And back to what we've been saying here, it is a function of what you have in the inside that will determine what can come out of you. Your content and your container will determine if you will earn the money and earn the respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have questions from the audience? Write it down. There are ushers going around to collect the questions from you, and then it will get across to us here. Dr. Chief, I would like to ask, what is the nexus between leadership and success in life generally? Because the theme of the conference is equipping emerging leaders for national transformation. How important is leadership to succeeding with your goals in life?
Okay, first of all is what actually is leadership. We have a very erroneous understanding of what leadership stands for, especially in this part of the world. People tend to think that leadership has to do with the offices and titles associated with a certain position called leadership. But a certain man, John Maxwell, wrote a book he called 360-Degree Leadership, showing that in whatever sphere you find yourself in life, whatever position you find yourself, you can be able to lead. A young girl, the maid of the man Naaman, who was a nobody in that society, was a slave girl, understood what leadership was all about and was able to exercise it when it mattered. When his master Naaman became leprous, she was bold enough to go up to him and say, look, your leprosy can come to an end if you permit me to introduce you to someone in my homeland who can heal you of that leprosy. We were never told the end of that story. But I want to believe that Naaman came back healed and freed the girl from slavery. That was because somebody was able to exercise leadership. So, leadership is everything. You cannot succeed in life if you don't embrace leadership and make it a constituent of your DNA and begin to exercise wherever you find us. You can imagine if at the end of this conference, we unleash everybody seated in this hall and you all go out and decide to take up the responsibility of leading. Whether you are the one who holds the title in whatever organization or body you find yourself, but you go out to lead. That means that we have been able to unleash success in our society. So, are they connected? They're not connected. They are the same thing. Leadership is success.
Wow, thank you very much, sir. Leadership is success. Dr. Ifeanyi, as an organizational development expert who has worked with several institutions in providing solutions to their challenges and all that, I'd like to ask, based on your years of experience and interacting with corporate institutions, what are those critical factors that bosses and owners of enterprises would always look for in promoting staff? What distinguishes or qualifies a person to be promoted above his or her peers in an organization?
Well, the question is very lengthy, but I understand clearly what you are looking at. I just want to sum all of those things that employers will need from employees in just 2 words: character and competence. Whichever one comes first is very highly arguable. Some believe competence should come first before character. Some believe character comes first before competence. Now, there's a company in America, an airline company called Southwest. Southwest Airline tells you that they hire for character and train for competence. That means for Southwest Airline, the first priority is character. Then competence and skill come second. Now, we are saying that the first thing, the character of integrity, honesty in dealings, with your colleagues in the office, your relationship, your attitude. We heard this morning, attitude of service, going beyond what you hired or what you're paid to do. That is character. Giving people rest that have problems, and you're able to give them rest. Can you imagine the story we heard that talks about that young lady, that customer service officer in the hotel, who had to go beyond her call of duty to render service? That's character. Not necessarily because she's the most skilled in that company, but because she has this attitude of going beyond the call of duty. Okay? So, character formation, how you express your attitude, the character of honesty, integrity, consistency, people taking your words to the bank, they are very, very important in terms of character. Then competence. We will not say because you have a good character, and so we should excuse you if you're not competent. We will not excuse you. So we will still want you to be competent, to be skilled in the role that you've been assigned to do. And you know what? Skills keep changing every day. And so that means you need to continuously upgrade your skill set, because the world is changing. The world keeps having all kinds of problems. And so as the problems keep having different, keep changing, it means that the skill set required to tackle the dynamics of the problems we keep having must also continuously change. Don't say because you have gone for trainings before, you have learned some skills before, so you are okay. No, you have to continuously upgrade your skill set in as much as you're also building on your character. These are the 2 key things I believe organizations are looking for to determine who they want to promote to the next level.
Thank you very much, sir. This question is for Dr. Chiefo. Please, sir, can you tell us why people fail interviews?
The reasons are numerous, but I want to summarize them under one, and that is anybody who fails an interview failed before he stepped into the interview hall. And if you see anybody who walked into an interview and he scaled through the interview process, he passed that interview before you walked into the interview hall. I'll tell you just one story to buttress the point. I recall a couple of years back, that was when I was here in the Southeast. We had an interview, and I was sitting in my office, so I asked my colleagues to run the interview because I didn't have time. I told them, interview these fellows. When you're done, I'll just see those you recommended, and so on and so forth. Now, my office then was a transparent office, glass office. So I could see the interview candidates when they filed in. And they were youth corpers. I remember that particular day we were interviewing youth corpers, so they all came in their youth corpers uniform, except one person. He was well dressed. In fact, he was so well dressed that I actually thought maybe he was an experienced staff of another bank. And I remember I called my colleagues, and one of my colleagues, and said, go find out that guy. Let him know that this interview is for youth corpers. So she went to him, and he came back and told me he said he's a youth corper. So he was the only person dressed differently, dressed in a beautiful suit and not looking like a corper at all. Anyway, I left them. After the interview was over, they brought the interview sheets for me, and I noticed that the three people who interviewed them all said decline, decline, decline. They refused to recommend that he should be hired. So, and I found it strange, and I said, why didn't you guys recommend this person? And everybody said, no, he wasn't good. That person, he wasn't good. I said, it's strange. So anyway, at the end of the meeting, I sent for him, and I said, let me have a chat with you, and to find out what he did on the interview table. I was wrong. And when he walked in, on interviewing him, I found that he was excellent. As a matter of fact, whilst in school, as an accounting student, he went in from year one and began to read for his ICAM. So at the point that his school, he graduated from university and he was given his university degree, ICAN also told him he was now chartered. So he left university, chartered accountant, and had a degree in accounting. Secondly, I found in his CV that he took time to document his skills. In fact, one particular skill he mentioned in the CV that I found very interesting was that he was very good with the piano. Because at the time that I was having issues with pianists who bill me to death if I asked them to come for an event. And I said, if I hire this guy, I have somebody, a skill I've hired for free. I kept looking at him, and I also noticed he was multilingual. He could speak Yoruba and some other, was it French or some other language? So I called my staff, and I said, what exactly is the reason why people said this guy? This guy is obviously head and shoulders above everybody that came for the interview. And they told me I should excuse the guy. So I told the guy to leave. One after the other, they came to me and said, look, Oga, we know you very well. If this guy joins us, it won't be long, he will become our boss. That was exactly the problem. So I quickly sent for him, and I told them to process. I got them the few new interview sheets, and I told them this time, speak the truth. And I said the truth, and I gave him, of course, the remarks he needed. We hired this guy. To cut this long story short, he's Yoruba. His name is David Ogbueli. For every year, anytime I'm asked this question, I mention him. Today, he's a manager of a Unity Bank branch in Ibadan. In fact, within the 1 year he served with us as a copper, immediately he finished, he didn't take, while he was still a copper, I processed for him to be retained in the bank. He got retained, he spent 1 or 2 years with us, moved over to Lagos, and the rest is history. He just flew to the top, just like, my colleague was saying. And today, when he got married, he has never forgotten that experience of how he came to serve in Igbo land, and some Igbos ganged up to kill him, and then one Igbo man saved his life. So when he had his wife, he called his first child Cheerful after me. We never ever forgot each other. So today he's a bank manager. In a few years, he has risen to, an enviable height in the industry because he did the right things first. He prepared, just like Joseph, Joseph was summoned to see the Pharaoh. The first thing he did was to discard his prison clothes and put on clothes that could be appealing to the person who was interviewing him. He did not walk in there. He came in there to be hired as a youth corper, but he dressed for where he was going. He already knew he did that job. Those who failed did the opposite. And that's just it. So you have to be prepared for where you're going. Every battle you win in life, you have to win it in your mind first. You have to see yourself there. You know, I've attended interviews that I was offered things that were beyond my competence. And I left the interviews and wrote back and told them, I'm sorry, but honestly, this is what I told people to do. I can't do it all. It has happened many times. There are many times I've walked into interview panels and the guys looked at me and they gave me 3, 4, 5 times. And I said, no. Truly speaking, I wasn't serious when I was telling people those things. Because I walk into the interview panel, my confidence and my demeanor, my candor, and the time I spend understanding your business. First time an employer asked me a question, I came back, he asked me, how can I be of help to you? I took my seat. I looked at him and I said, can I change that question, sir? He said, yes. What's your question? He said, no. How can I be of help to you? And I was the one who was being interviewed. I said, no. I didn't come here looking for a job. And like he rightly said, I came here to solve problems for you. So how can I be of help to you? Tell me what your problems are. And I left there with more than I asked for. So I have never, ever failed an interview. Not once in my life. So prepare. Success requires preparation. If you want to win interviews, win contracts, when you prepare for it, you will get it.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Nemeka, you mentioned here just a while ago that even now you still study for 3 hours daily. Is that correct? I would like you to share with this audience and the global audience, because we're live, we're online, we're on YouTube live. People are watching this from all over the world. I'd like you to share with us the secret of living a balanced life. How are you able to make out time to study 3 hours daily, considering your your tight schedule as an entrepreneur, a family man, and all of that? How do you make out 3 hours daily to study?
Interestingly, I have practically next to zero social life. I work in an environment that like I told you, when I started my career, I developed this habit of always being the first to get to the office. I was then living at Ogbueli Ikeja. My office then was at Broad Street 55. So you have to leave by 4:30 in the morning to be able to beat the traffic and get to the office as early as 5:30. So it has always been in me. My work life, my normal routine is I normally wake up by 5 a.m. in the morning, do my morning devotion. I have 3 children, a boy and 2 girls. My wife is a medical practitioner with about 3 clinics. Wake up in the morning. I ensure that, in fact, my last girl, I'm the one that dropped her at school. She's the only one among them that don't go with school bus or driver. I took out that because she's the baby of the house. I just want to get to know her better. Of course, where I live and where I work is about 10 minutes drive. If I want to walk, it's about 25. Wake up in the morning, take out time to study my Bible, pray. By 6:30, they wake them up, get them ready. 7:30, I put her in the car. The other ones find their way, drop her in the office, in the school. Drive to my office, which is about 3 minutes away. Of course, the normal prayer in the office, do my diary. Because once you wake up in the morning, you must be able to articulate. See, the shortest pencil remembers more than the memory. Do my diary. What are the things I want to do every day? If you see my diary, I've been keeping diaries since I was in university. Write out things I plan to do for that day based on the timing. Of course, normal work. From sitting in the office as an investment banker, I do a lot of proposals, do a lot of creative values and all those stuff. 12 noon for sure, I must take a walk. I walk 6,000 steps every day. I use my Samsung phone. Sometimes 10,000. Of course, I walk around my office, pace around my office, walk around my house, my room, and all those stuff. Once it is 2 p.m., I go for my lunch. Of course, I don't pick her up from school in the afternoon. Driver takes her home. I close work every day. I stay in my office till 7. Get home, take my shower, eat, then mount my laptop. I sleep healthy, minimum of 6 hours, sometimes 7, sometimes 8. But from that time, I don't waste my time listening to news. I will tell you why. Most of what they give you are the things, their own narrative. If you give me that news, I will digest it myself. I tell us why we have elected people who are incompetent is because a majority of us are incompetent and lacks knowledge. If you are able to access knowledge, you'll be able to make good evaluation. So from that 7 till 11 or 12, I study. Weekends are for my children. For me to go for a birthday party or a wedding, it must be somebody so close to me. I spend time with my children. I make out time. They are my best friends. What they tell me, what they don't tell me, they can't even talk to their mother or another person. Weekends are for the children. But I tell you, every day, 3 hours is actually minimum. Sometimes people ask me, if you go to my Facebook wall, every day I write 2 articles. I research. Even as an investment banker. Let me give you an instance, if time permits. While I was at Oceanic Bank, I was the head of project finance. If you know about NAFCON on air, when the federal government privatized NAFCON, you must be able to think out of the box. When they privatized NAFCON, NAFCON was privatized through what they call guided liquidation. Stripped of all liability, the asset was sold. $152 million, 24 billion. When the man that won the bid came to the bank to finance it, Oceanic Bank was a bank of 24 billion naira, 25 billion naira share capital. And of course, single obligatory simply means you can't do more than 20%. Which simply means we can't finance more than about 4.8 billion of that asset. But here we have a 24 billion asset that must be funded. Practically everybody in the bank, including the chief credit officer, said we will not do it. But thank God for the MD. She called me and said, Nemeka, how can we do this? And it occurred to me that we cannot carry it alone. And of course, we don't fund long-term transaction with short-term money. Before you do it, you must have a way of refinancing it. It was then it occurred to me that we can actually use discount houses and mortgage banks who had money. That was how we created CPs. Put guarantee behind it, which means it now becomes a contingent liability. And sold the notes to mortgage banks, to discount houses, and they funded it. Why did we do it? While everybody said they would not do it. I did a simple study over the weekend. I discovered then Nigeria was importing 6 million tons of fertilizer every year. And NAFCON was the only fertilizer company in the whole of West Africa. And it has capacity of 775,000 tons per annum. I also discovered that the raw material to produce fertilizer, inorganic fertilizer, is 98% gas. And gas is cheaper in Nigeria than in other countries where they produce fertilizer. As at that time, NGC was selling a standard cubic feet of gas for 60 cents. Whereas in America, it was going for $2. And I now looked at it. Very simple. To build that factory, the same size, will take $535 million. And it will take 5 years. This one will take only $200 million to fix, to bring it to full capacity. And I now look at it. The demand is there. The cost of production will make us cheaper and make us more profitable. And I took out 3 weeks with my team to design a structure, and we funded it. Today, that company is standing and employing many Nigerians. You just have to study.
Thank you very much, sir. We have quite some questions here, so we'll go over them quickly. This is for Mr. Ozone. I'll ask it as it's been written down. Can I brand myself without having a product to offer? But I have a lot of content. For example, I'm a public speaker, content writer, and I brand myself.
Wow. You don't need a physical product to be a brand. And I said it yesterday, you as a person can become a brand. You either offer services or products. And when you intend to become a brand, there are just two things you need. And you find yourself at that place you want to be. Number one is who you know, and number two, what you know. And a lot of times, people think that for you to really know these things, you have to go to a specialized kind of school. I keep saying it, education is what you need, not really a school. Because a school is a platform where education is delivered. And now, the most powerful school you have is in the palm of your hand. And it's called your smartphone. Your smartphone is smarter than some of the schools that you think you want to go and study. And how do you do that? You know, I met a young man some 2 years ago. He came to the academy to get trained, and he was telling me, I don't have a laptop. And I asked him a question, what do you have in your hands? And he said, mobile phone. I said, is it Android or internet enabled? He said, yes. I said, that's your school. To cut the story short, this young man is an entrepreneur, and he's a mobile developer, an app developer. He designs websites. He's employed about 3 people. He's paying people salary today. And how did it happen? On his mobile phone. He started learning and unlearning certain things that he needs to get him to where he wants to be. And that's the same thing that applies to you, the public speaker. For anything you want to know is online. The best question you ask Google is how to. And mention whatever it is, it will shock you. There are thousands and millions of people that has done that thing in the past, and they have transferred it online for you to just go, gain the knowledge, and move forward. Thank you,
sir. Thank you, sir. Dr. Ifeanyi, this is a predicament that befalls a lot of youth in Nigeria and perhaps some African countries. This one says, I'm a graduate from IMSU, 21 years old. I opted to study law and was granted admission to study English and literacy. I'm in a dilemma. I don't have the flair for writing. I have more passion for music, theater, acting, and computing. I plan to go back to school to study theater arts and computer science. What do you advise I do? Now, this is a predicament that faces a lot. There are those who are even, maybe they are still in school, and the course they are studying might have been foisted upon them by parents, peer pressure, societal pressure, and in course of their study, they are realizing they've got passion for something else. How do you advise they go about it? What exactly should such people do?
Okay, so the question has a lot of components around it. You're already in school, right?
He's graduated already from Imo State University.
Okay, you have already graduated, and perhaps you studied a course that is outside your passion. Yesterday in my class, we talked about the Benjamin's pyramid for choosing, for designing your life and choosing a career in life. At the base, there are about 6 of them. At the base, we talked about your life values. And that's actually the domain where your passion is resident. The things that you value, the things that are very important to you, they should actually stand as the base, the superstructure that determines the kind of career you pursue in life. Now, if you have satisfied the interest of your parents and you've got your degree, now is a time for you to satisfy your own interest. Are you with me? You have satisfied your parents by, you didn't drop out of school because it wasn't your passion, but you finished it, so that money was not wasted. Now it is a time for you to go back to the drawing board, and you're asking yourself from that basis, what exactly is your passion for life? What are the values that you stand for that drive you? For example, yesterday I was talking about people choosing a career based on values. Perhaps your value now is, you said you like to do what?
Theater arts.
Theater arts. You're doing theater arts for what reason? There must be something that puts that interest inside of you. And so that begins to be your starting point. The next line will be, what is the goal? Who do you want to become in the next 10 years? So that's where vision and personal vision comes in. Today is 25th of October 2019. If I meet you again on the 25th of October 2029, who am I going to be meeting? Am I going to be meeting an RMD or a Ramsimnua? Who am I going to be meeting in the next 10 years? And so that becomes your global picture, the global goal that will help you to now know what plans you need to take. So if your interest is in becoming somebody is going to function in the theater or Nollywood or whatever it is, that becomes your long-term goal. The next thing is, what do I need to do as a master plan to realize that goal? Are there some schools you need to attend? Are there some seminars, conferences, skills in acting that you need to do? Are there some people that we need to even mentor you along those lines? But please, as you're doing this, make sure that you break it down into milestones. So for the next 2 years, what do you need to do? The next 3, 4, 5 years, what do you need to do to achieve that long-term goal? But as you do all of this, remember you need mentors to work with you. Because there are people who have passed through this same new route that you want to pass. There have been people who have made success in this theater and acting. So you need to begin to gravitate towards them because they will pass on the experience that actually helped them. One thing about mentoring is that you do not have to make all the mistakes these people have made in the past. You can only stand on their shoulders and fly from there. So you don't need to make all the mistakes. They have already made a mistake, so you don't need to make the mistake. So what you have done is that you have gotten the first degree. That's a starting point. But please, and please, don't ever think that those 5 years you spent in the university is a waste. Because there are still some things you can borrow from. Do you get what I'm trying to say? There are some contacts you've made. There are some networks you have built, like we were told yesterday. In the first program, the first degree you have obtained, still because these days we talk about multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary approach to solving life problems. That means you will not have to focus on only one discipline. And if you have been so advantaged to have that first degree, adding it, there are some places you get to that you even need to write your script yourself. You are going to be using some of the experiences and the knowledge you got from the first degree, and you're applying them. In fact, one of the things I have observed from my own personal experience, after I had done banking for 12 years, I now started doing training and consulting. Now, when I get into working for a bank, training a bank, I will be borrowing experiences from the fact that I had worked in a bank for 12 years. Somebody who never worked in a bank and is now a management consultant coming to train in a bank will not have the experience, the banking experience that I already have. Now, will I say the 12 years I spent in banking was a waste? It wasn't a waste. Let me also tell you this. God never makes mistakes. Any part you have seen yourself enter before, it is still part of the preparation for where you're going. So there is no mistake.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. 3 of our panelists this morning have a background in banking. I'm feeling like I should go back and apply for a job in one bank. And I also want us to appreciate again this morning Dr. Chiefo. Just appreciate him. I'm going to say why. Again this morning, we find right here on this platform the example our nation, Nigeria, needs, where people are employed based on merit and not on the basis of tribal leanings and all of that. Thank you very much, sir. I wanted to put that on record. And when you find yourself in a position to do such, please emulate and follow the same example. We have just about 8 minutes to go, so each speaker would have, each facilitator has 2 minutes. I'm going to ask you 2 questions, and then you would also use about 30 seconds to give us your closing remarks for this panel session. Dr. Nemeka, my name is Tobechukwu. I'm a trader in Forex and stocks. I have growing interests in global corporate and investment banking. My question is, how does one kickstart a career in financial matters and investment banking, capital matters, capital markets, etc., because this is a career path I have chosen for myself. And the second question this morning is, what do you do when you've done everything to raise finance for a business idea and it's not just coming and you're desperately in need of cash to push this idea? These 2 questions are for you. And then you give us your closing remarks in 2 minutes.
Number one, he wants to
Starting
make
a career in
career
global corporate.
and I want to let you know this. You don't need to read banking and finance to be an investment banker. In fact, some of the best investment bankers are lawyers, engineers, and those that read sciences. All you need to know is your numbers. You can't be an investment banker without understanding the number crunching. You can't be a good investment banker without being able to critically think out of the box. As long as you have the passion, what do? First of all, go online training. Train yourself, read. Like I told you, I became a good investment banker, and I'm still a very, very good investment banker. In fact, I brag that I'm one of the best in the whole world because I learned under the masters. You need a mentor, and I'm willing to mentor you free of charge. That is given. And number 2, please, forex trading is risky. I call it gambling. I ran a business that did forex trading and we lost millions of dollars. You know, you can do it in a bank, leaning on the balance sheet of a bank. Forex traders in a bank, because if you're working in a bank that has a balance sheet of $1 billion, by the time you lose $10 million, you can recover it the next month. But if you use your little money to go and do for it and you lose it. You don't have that hedge. So it's gambling per se. And the other one is,
after having done everything you need to do to raise money, you still don't have money to finance your business. What should you do?
if you have a good pitch, something that sells, like what we are doing in Sefap Call, we have a project. You know, when I mentioned to you guys that we are going to create 9,000 youth millionaires, you ask me, where will you get that money? We have a project that will cost $185 million to execute over the next 2 years. One of us here is even a member of this church. Lemchi is part of what we are trying to do. But I can tell you, but what we have as a pitch, what we have as a business plan, what we are offering is something any discerning investor will quickly grab. Don't give up. As long as you have something that is willing to provide solutions and add value to mankind, you will get investments. People must be able to bet in you. And again, it also has to do with who are you in terms of your character. Can people trust you with money? In 2010, when we started our first business, I was far away at Harvard. When people betted in that, they transferred $5 million for start a business. They were not scared that this guy can decide to stay in US without coming back to Nigeria. Do you know why they did that investment? These are people that have known me over the last 10 years. And these are people that know, to the glory of God, that this man has conquered the demon of greed, that he will rather die than to eat your money. People must trust you. Ask yourself this question: are you trustworthy? If you're trustworthy, people can believe in bet in your integrity. Integrity is not what you claim. Integrity is a lifestyle. I have worked in more than 7 banks, and I can beat my chest. Every kobo I have in this life, I can account for it. It's a testimony. If you have it, people will bet on you. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Mr. Ozone, in 2 minutes, someone asked he would like you to throw more light on the concept of ROI and how this concept can reposition one for high performance and becoming a person of value.
Okay, yesterday I couldn't finish ROI. The first one, like I said, is relevance. The second one, originality. And the third one, impact. And when you combine these 3 ROI, you get the real ROI, which is return on investment. And so, as a brand, like I told you, it's a calculated effort, intentional living. Relevance is very simple. What you bring to the table will determine what can enter and come back to you. And I said it yesterday, you can never be remembered for what you contribute. You can only be remembered for what you contribute. But the second one, which I was about to talk about, which is originality. You know, the truth about originality is that a lot of times people think that for you to become what you want to be, you need to model someone else. But I tell people, your authenticity, the originality of your brand, what makes you stand out. The reason why people will shift attention to you is simply because you are you. And it is only the you in you that makes you who you are. At the end of the day, people are not interested in looking at a photocopy. They want something original. They want something fresh. They want something that nobody has seen before. And so what I ask you to do, look at what every other person is doing and decide to stand out. Something happened some months back, when I was teaching the concept of ROI. And a student came up with a concept that went viral. What did the guy do? He decided to come up with a 3D zebra crossing, a painting on the floor that makes it look like it's an obstacle. I wish I have the video here, I will show you. And of course, we went ahead to paint this thing on the road, and guess what? That stuff went viral. In fact, BBC came to interview us and interview the guy. And the upper month, 3 advertising agencies were dragging who will pick the guy. Right now, he's earning some real good amount of money, which I will have not to disclose. But you see, when you're original, when you have something just completely different from what other people are doing, people will shift attention to you. And the other side to originality is also your authenticity. I say integrity is the currency of the future. When people see you and see how original and realistic you are, they take you serious. And when you talk, people can take your words for it. And the third one is impact. Impact is that reason why people will think of you and they will rejoice. Why? Because you have left something in them. Everywhere you go, make sure you leave a mark such that when you are not there, they will remember you for what you contribute and not what you consume. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dr. Ifeanyi, in 2 minutes, how important is critical thinking in Nigeria becoming a better country? And then secondly, from your interaction with great men like you, what are the 3 critical factors that makes people take quality and sound decisions in 2 minutes.
Okay, so every thinking or thinking process must have a framework. Whatever you're thinking about, there's a framework already. There's nothing new under the sun. So there's a framework for whatever. If you want to go into trading, business, career, there's already a framework that has been created over the years. So you're thinking from a particular framework. That's number one. Number two, you need personal solitude. He talked about spending 3 hours to read. For you to really engage in critical thinking or system thinking, you need solitude, which means you must learn to shut out every distraction from around your environment. Sometimes I go into solitude for 2 days, 3 days, where I do not have to answer my phones, where I don't have to have any distractions. And in those moments of solitude, when I finish and I come out, new products are born, new services are born, are created. So you need, because the millennials, part of the problem of the millennials is distraction. You are distracted from social media, you are distracted from friends, you are distracted from events that you don't have any business attending. These are the characteristics that we see that distract, the things that we see that distract millennials and post-millennials. So you need to learn solitude to be able to engage in critical thinking. Number three, the problem of the 21st century is no longer a problem of ignorance, but it is a problem of illusion of knowledge. It is no longer a problem of lack of knowledge, but the illusion of knowledge. People think they know. People assume they understand. And so we finish this program and you go home thinking you have understood anything, but you have not really understood anything. Even some of the things you came with to the program, you need to unlearn them so you can relearn new things. And you come out from personal assumptions and have the clarity that can help you. Now the next thing is action. You need to take action. There are 3 kinds of actions you can take after this kind of program. The first one is what I call no action, zero action. So we finished, you enjoyed the talks, and you go home and you do nothing about them. That's zero action. In fact, there are 4. The first one is actually retreat action. Retreat action because you finish the program, you go home, you wanted to start, but the obstacles on the way discouraged you, so you go back. That's retreat action. The second level of action you can take is no action. So you didn't even try at all. The third level of action is a normal action. You go back, you do the normal average thing that average people do. And so when you engage in doing normal action, you get normal results. You get average results. You get mediocre results. But do you know what I want, the kind of action I want you to take? I want you to take massive action. Everybody say massive action. Massive action is that level of action that you are going above the board. You're challenging yourself. You're going beyond your comfort zone to do things you've never done before. And when you do things you've never done before, you get the results you have never got before. And so that's the level of action you need to take. So enough of the talking. Let's go into doing.
Thank you, sir. And finally, before Dr. Cheful, I saw a report of a survey carried out by, published in Harvard Business Review. It's called the Forgetting Curve. And it says if new information isn't applied, you are likely to forget 75% of it 6 days after stumbling on that information. It's called the Forgetting Curve. If you don't apply it within 6 days, you're likely to forget 75% of the new information you got. Dr. Chefo, in the case of the bushel, the gifts you have at times are not fully developed. My question is this: is it right to start displaying your gifts to the world while in your preparation season? How do you know when you're ready for the world? The second question is, with the illustration you made from the scriptures concerning the candle and the bushel, I liken myself to the candle and I know my bushel. But my issue is with the man that will place me on the bushel. What do I need to do to make contact with the man or the men who would place me on my bushel? 2 minutes to address this question and give us your closing remarks.
Okay, this strikes a chord for me, especially with an area that I'm very passionate about. So, permit me to stand up to address it. What I'm about to tell you is very, very important to me, because this is how I solved my life's problems. You know, an elephant can smell water 3 miles away. An elephant can detect where water is, even when it's 3 or 4 miles away. You know the reason why? Because the elephant needs at least 200 liters of water every day to survive. So deep will locate deep. Wherever that water is, you will find it. There's a deep connection between your needs and your instincts. The problems of your life, the real problems of your life. When I use the word real, I'm only trying to address the fact that sometimes we pursue problems that are not ours. There are things that society foists on you. That tells you, for example, a young girl should get married and so on. So once that age, your parents begin to put on you, go and marry, go and marry. So there are problems that the environment imposes on you, but they're not your real problems. But there are people who are born with some problems. There are people who have problems that are unique and domesticated and customized to themselves. Those problems are the problems you are born to solve. Let me give you an example. I mean, it's like family of 5 girls. You're the only one who didn't get married at a particular age. Everybody came in, got married and left, but it's just you. It's a clue to a problem you are born to solve. Are you following what I'm saying? So if you have an issue of discovering your life purpose, or you have discovered your life purpose, somebody said, I know my light, and I also know my candle. But what I need is a man who will place me on that candle stand. It is unusual for you to discover your light and know your bushel and not to begin to shine immediately. So if you are at that junction in your life, it is indicative of the fact that this problem that is unique and domesticated to you is actually a clue to a problem you're born to solve. Am I clear? So what to do with it is very simple. Rejoice in the fact that you have discovered your life problem. Your greatest asset in life is your problem. Mark my words. Somebody say my. Your problem is different from our problem. It's not a Nigerian problem. It's not a tribal problem. It is yours. Making that discovery puts you a foot in the door of the greatest discovery of your life. Because when you solve that problem, you will be a problem solver to all those lined up who have a similar problem. I end by telling you this story. Vaseline was discovered in 1890. How many of you still use Vaseline here? I still do. 1890. That is almost 200 years ago. How did this man discover Vaseline? His name is Cheesebro. I'm trying to remember his first name. Somebody Cheesebro. He traveled to Pennsylvania, and there he discovered that he visited a factory in Pennsylvania, and there he found workers who were bruised by drill rods, burnt by drill rods, and they were collecting grease from the side of those rods and rubbing on their burns and their scars in order to heal. And the guy was burdened about it. And he went back home and opened up his laboratory and said, I must find a solution to the pain of these workers. How can they be using grease from those dirty steel rods to rub on the burns on account of the job that they do in the factories? And that's how the guy developed Vaseline. Now think about it. 1890, about 160 years afterwards, you're still using it. Because somebody encountered a problem that connected to a pain in his life. So thank God for what you are going through, for the challenges that are unique and particular about you, because it's your gateway to the biggest discovery of your life. Now the challenge you have in Nigeria today, and I'm going to sit down saying that one, is that most young people do not have the patience to make that discovery. The pressures of life are so much that you don't feel it is worth the wait and it's worth the time. I'm going to give you one big advice. Find a mentor. My friend here has offered his services free of charge. My own is not free. So thank God for him. But find a mentor that will handhold you through this process in your life. It might take a little while, but wait out the time. Remember what he said? He left the shores of, he passed River Niger when he was 14 or thereabouts, and went in and submitted to a master in investment banking, akin to what Warren Buffett did. And this guy trained him. After he finished training him, he went to find a job where he was paid $25,000 a month. But he had capacity to earn much more. But that was what was available at the time. When information got to him by other people who were his age mates that they were earning much more, he told them, don't worry, just a question of time. You know why? Because under the tutelage of a mentor, he had built capacity beyond what he was earning. So all he needed was for the seasons and the times to come, and then he would get to the top. The moment he got a banking job, he crossed them and said bye-bye on his way to the big ticket. That is how your story will be. It is the reason why you have paid the price to leave your locations and leave your different states where you came from, to come and sit down here under the tutelage of mentors. What you have written on those sheets of paper, on those notebooks before you, when you leave this hall today, go through them. Begin to give yourself an assignment for the next 1 year, a to-do list, and begin to write. I cannot forget this Harvard survey he talked about. Even I myself, going to imbibe it from today. 6 days after, if you do nothing about it, you forget 75% of what you have learned. Take those things you have documented. Truth that is not retrievable is not usable. You have documented it. Give yourself an assignment for the next 1 year. The things I'm going to accomplish the next 1 week, the next 1 month, the next 1 quarter, the next 1 year. And apply yourself diligently to it. Nobody who is your peer, who is not here today, will see your back 1 year from today. Thank you very much.
A standing ovation and a round of applause for our panelists. Rise to your feet. Join me in appreciating our panelists this morning. Thank you, Mr. Ozonu Banefo of Oxygen Academy. Thank you, Dr. Nemeka Owerri. Thank you so much, Dr. Chefo. Thank you so much, Dr. Ifeanyi. Thank you. Thank you very much. We may take our leave now. Keep clapping until they get back to their seats. With a round of applause, I would like us to welcome the Vice President of the Golden Heart Foundation. The man who has been working tirelessly behind the scene to ensure that everything goes on smoothly. Help me welcome Pastor Norbert Onaga.
Wow, I think we can do better than that. I don't know who is the most excited person here. Can you clap louder and shout louder? All right. I'm sure you are aware. You may be seated. You are being seen globally, all over the world. People are watching. We are tuning in and getting responses from all over the world. And this meeting is streamed live on many platforms. Okay? So, can we do something for our audience all over the world? Is that so? What can we do? Okay, let's just clap and wave our hands and just recognize all our audience all over. Can you capture them in camera? Yes, 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 yes. Thank you for tuning in, and it's been an awesome time. All right, let's appreciate the Lord for this wonderful session. Amen. Let's thank and appreciate our panelists, and thank you so much. So right now, we'll be switching off the live stream. So live stream will join us by 8 p.m. this evening at the mega rally at Hero Square. So I'm made to understand that all the people are around. Tim Godfrey is in town. Frank Edward is in town. Chioma Jesus is in town. And all our people, they're all in town. Okay? Jukes Peters,